the Navy SEALs. These guys, they are warriors. They would leave their base, fly to some place, do some highly dangerous operation. They were just absent for a week. Hey, darling, how was your week, right? Being a warrior, and the Monday after that, a father of a family, a husband. I mean, these contrasts. If you learn how to deal with that, and if you have a safe space also where you can dissipate some of that energy, I mean, it makes life so incredibly rich.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior. And on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Welcome to the Sovereign Man Podcast, where we aim to make men masculine again. I'm your man, Nicky Ballou, and we have a fantastic guest for you today, Rene Sonneveld. Rene, welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Nicky. Thanks for inviting me in.
You bet. So Rene, I know you're a man who values family greatly. That became very obvious in the business podcast where I interviewed you previously. And I know that you also understand that for men, a big part of why we do what we do is for our families. And your entire business is about serving families, family offices, family businesses. So what I'd like you to do is, first off, start by telling us your story of how you got to be a man that serves families and that helps families thrive and grow and build legacies. And then I'd like you to tie that in to how you think men listening to this program can start to think about that when they're thinking about how to build and create their own legacies.
Yeah, and thanks for asking that. I think that every man today, he started as a child, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of my experiences late in life, I could fall back of what I had learned in my childhood, and especially it's about values, right? I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't learn in my childhood that I learned, while working in enterprises and trying to survive in the jungle, but. I like to start talking about it. I like to think about my parents first. And I came from a small family. My brother, me, my parents, Protestant, small Dutch family. I had extraordinary parents. They were generous and loving and patient and, really the kind of parents a child would hope for. But my mother also lived with profound psychiatric challenges. She had manic depression, she was schizophrenic, she had paranoia.
Wow.
And so for me, some of the days as a child, they were frightening and confusing and even embarrassing. And other days she was absolutely brilliant and warm and funny and incredibly intelligent, uber intelligent. So it was like living in two worlds, right? And then there was my father. He was the most loyal, steady human being I've ever known. And what I take away from that is he stood by her his entire life.
Wow.
He never let go of her, quiet devotion, no drama, just presence. And I can tell you, my father suffered because my mother, if she would get stir crazy, I mean, she was, off the charts, and we had dramas with judges in our house and doctors and injections that she wanted to take, not to take, and being taken away and in ambulances to hospitals and whatever you can imagine in the movies happened in my home. But watching that taught me more than any leadership book ever could, because it taught me about resilience. It taught me about the power of loyalty. It taught me about compassion without boundaries. And it taught me about to stay grounded when the world shakes. And by the way, it also, taught me, here in South America, we say, PTT, problemas tenemos todos, problems everybody has. So it taught me about that everybody carries invisible battles.
Yes.
And those battles, they shape how we show up. And that became the call. And it became my fascination with human identity and behavior and the invisible forces that drive families and leaders and teams. And so that's my backstory, right? And then, I went through a whole bunch of stuff, and, I don't want to tie up the conversation about that. Incredible stuff that I learned by being adventurous and not wanting to stick to the normal kind of pattern. You go to university, you start working, you do a career, you're 34, you are crazy about your career, you get probably divorced, whatever, and you continue your career driven and so on. I wanted not to be that person. And so I always fought for my freedom, and I seeked adventure, and so fast forward, after my corporate career, I became a coach. And I was working always with families, even in my younger career as a tax lawyer. And then I was working as executive in very, very large, powerful family-owned enterprises, where I was kind of a consigliere to the family. So working directly with the owners, that taught me a lot about how these big family systems work. Then I got into private banking, and I, advised families around wealth management and inheritances and financial planning and family governance and so on. And then out of that, I rolled into coaching. And I work a lot with leadership, family leadership, and legacy. And the interesting thing is, for me, everything was always about money. There were moments that I was absolutely, totally broke. I didn't have a cent, and I had the American Express guys knocking on my door every day to get paid. Yeah. And so for me, maybe today's unfortunate, but it taught me also a lot. But a lot of things was tied around money, right? Money. And what life taught me that legacy isn't money. Legacy is identity transferred through generations. It's the stories we live, the behaviors we model, the trust we build to our families, to our communities, to the people that are important to us. And that's what I found with families and wealthy families. They don't rise or fall because of money or maybe some strategy. They rise or they fall because of the invisible capital, the unseen dynamics of trust and conflict and belonging and identity. And that's something that I learned through hardship and also beautiful. My life is not, I look at the television, I cannot complain at all, right, about hardship. But, I had my setbacks, my adventures, my tough school of learning. But that's kind of important, the belonging and trust and conflict and identity that is much more important than money. Money is just a thing, it's a tool, and it's convenient, but it's nothing more than that. I mean, how many people do we know that have a lot of money and they're still unhappy? So it doesn't, money is very convenient, it's helpful, but there's much more behind that.
Well, money is like oxygen, right? You got to have it. In this day and age, in any day and age, without money, there's no life. And the more money you have, the more you can care for the people you love, your family. But there's something you said near the beginning of your monologue, which I think is the most profound thing you've said to me in any of our conversations. And it was when you were sharing the story of your father and how he was the steadiest and most loyal person you've ever known.
Yeah.
And he was a man of loyalty, and he was willing to suffer for his loyalty. And you said that the power of loyalty is the most important thing that a man has. I believe that to be true. I think the number one quality of a good man isn't how much money he makes, it's how loyal he is.
I fully agree.
How loyal he is to people, to his principles. That's everything. And unfortunately, there's too many people out there in the world that are teaching young men how to be better men. We're going to show you. And all they talk about is success and money and girls and hookups and sex and going to the gym and health. And I'm not saying that, being successful is bad. I think being successful is amazing. I'm not saying that being strong and healthy is bad. No, I think it's amazing. I think if you're a single young man and you want to date girls, by all means do that. But none of those make you a man. What makes you a man is when you learn how to be loyal and when you learn how to keep your word. Those are the things that make you a man. And these man-child people that are out there today that have no clue about what those two things are not men in my view. I don't care how much success they have or how many girls they take to bed. They're not men.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. So, I mean, we agree money is convenient, money is important, and the more you have of it, the better, right? Let's just park that there. As a, it's good and it's great that if you can make money and so on, because there's so much that you can do it, and it gives you options and it puts you in the place of most potential. But it doesn't create per se happiness. It doesn't create per se purpose or fulfillment, because most men today are overloaded with expectations but disconnected from purpose.
Yeah.
They are, to tell you the truth, I was one of them. I went into banking and they paid me obscene amounts of money. I mean, really beyond expectations amount of money. But achievement without identity, it feels so empty. I was living this high pressure cooker, this high expectations, the world in Switzerland and the Geneva around me, there was high expectation. There was the Ferrari crowd. It was the summers in Saint-Tropez, in the what was the name, in the Club 55, and Le Cave du Roi, the best nightclubs. And in the winters it was about skiing in Chamonix and eating oysters and drinking champagne and whatever. It was all expectations and all being part of that crowd. And most men today, they're overloaded. They're overloaded with expectations but disconnected from purpose. I was just how it came out this movie with Tom Cruise, where he is the agent in American football. What's the name again? Show me the money.
Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, there you go. He was a man, right? Show me the money. The player would say, and that was kind of our credence. Show me the money. Crazy. I'm weird. Many years ago. Inexperienced. So you overloaded with expectations but disconnected from purpose, and achievements, they just feel empty. And let me tell you a story I rarely share. A man, he once came to me after a very successful exit. He sold his company with many zeros. I mean, really the zeros that changed your life completely. And everyone around him assumed that he was celebrating. But the first thing that he said to me was, Rene, I feel like I just won the wrong race. And that's some kind of those things that stay with you, right? So he was this guy who had built a company from scratch, survived crises, carried a family through difficult years. He had reached, from my perspective and from many perspectives, the mountaintop, and he felt absolutely nothing. He said, I spent 20 years running with my head down. And when I finally looked up, I realized that mountain wasn't even mine. And it was not that he was depressed or that he was ungrateful. He was just disoriented. He was confused. And like many men, he inherited that expectations to be successful, to be strong, to provide, to not complain, to go on even when it's hard, and never question what's going on. So he wasn't suffering from a lack of achievement, but he was suffering from identity of ownership. So in coaching, we ask these powerful, open-ended questions, and a question typically that you would ask is, what do you want to do now? But I asked him, what do you want to be now that no one is clapping?
Mm.
And he had to sit on that for some time. But that was a really an important question for him to open. And so expectations, yeah, man, they're killers. And we get carried away by them. And we get under pressure. And and we live unfulfilled lives because we are part of a movie that often is not ours, right?
Well, I think part of a man's job, the biggest part of a man's job, is to provide, right? If you're a father, you're a husband, you got to provide. Once you've done that job, it's a first world problem to look at fulfillment. But men in the third world that can't even necessarily make enough to feed their families and put a roof over their heads, they're not thinking about fulfillment. They're thinking about, how am I going to make sure that none of my babies go hungry tonight, that my wife doesn't go hungry? I'm going to make sure we don't lose our home. And to me,
Yeah.
it's all well and good to talk about fulfillment, but sounds to me like your friend ought to be grateful that he got to make a wonderful exit, and he ought to be taking the opportunity that exit has given him to look at what would make him feel more fulfilled at this stage in his life. But
No, I agree, and he was grateful, but he didn't know who he was. And believe me, I've been in.
was he a father? Was he a husband?
Father, husband, family
So
man.
that's that.
for
He was
20
those things. I don't think it should be more than that. I think we men maybe confuse the issue here. You're a father, you're a husband, you're a family man. Those are big roles. I mean, what do you want to
which
be?
he totally-
Eisenhower
which he
and
totally
Churchill next, right?
But there were things that he totally neglected during his life, running
Sure.
after the success of his company. So he provided. His kids went to the best schools. They lived in the most beautiful house. All that, of course. And he was grateful that he could do that.
Yeah.
But he never cared for himself, ever.
Did he neglect his health? Did he neglect spending time with his children, with his wife?
All that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand why that would bother him. It would bother me too.
And actually, I know a similar story, or not a similar story. I have been in a similar story of a man who cashed out, 65 years old, also fortune, very successful, started with scratch. 4 months after he cashed out, he got health problems, kind of that many people that get out of the pressure cooker and they don't dose that well, they get sick. He got very sick. He wasn't allowed to do anything. He couldn't, drink the wine or diet. He couldn't smoke his favorite cigar. I mean, he couldn't do anything, and he didn't have any purpose anymore except for managing his money in an account.
Wow.
And he killed himself.
That's terrible.
So there's that part of, and of course I understand. And when you're in a survival, everything goes. And just having a piece of bread that you can bring home is incredibly fulfilling. I totally get that. I totally get that. But there's that other part as well.
There is, for sure. But it sounds to me, I run a men's group, and the name of my men's group is the same as the name of my podcast. It's called the Sovereign Man Movement. And we have a program in it called Sovereign Circle. The men in there are all ages, all walks of life, all levels of success. We've got guys that barely have a pot to piss in, and we've got multimillionaires in the group. It's not about how rich you are and how cool the people you're hanging around is. It's about, are you a man? And if you're a man, are you going through some shit that you're not sharing with anybody, that you're keeping to yourself and it's eating at you inside? So like this man you talked about who killed himself, if he was in such a group and he was telling these men these things, they'd go, yo, where are you? Let me come to your house. We're going to go see a movie. We're going to go grab a beer. We're going to go to the gym. We'll go to the strip club, whatever. Not that I go to a strip club, okay? Honey, if you're listening to this, I'm not going to a strip club, okay? But the point that I'm making is that, there would be someone there for him that he could talk to and let all his angst out. And then once he'd done that, they would reflect back to him. They'd tell him the truth. Because the problem is, if you're by yourself and you're in your own mind, and too many really, really successful guys, this is the problem. They believe that their financial success makes them smart everywhere else in your life. And you got to humble yourself and realize it doesn't. You're just a dummy. You're just a dummy who got good at one thing, maybe two things, okay? But you're just a dummy like every other man. You make stupid mistakes. You make stupid decisions. You're just You cannot think that financial success is transferable everywhere in your life, or whatever, health success. Like, look, I'm 58 years old, Rene. I've got the body of a 38-year-old. I got energy to burn. Does this mean I'm smart everywhere in my life? No, it doesn't. In fact, I'm pretty dumb in a lot of places in my life. But I got men that I talk to once a week, and Rene, they don't let me get away with anything. They kick my butt. When I try to give them bullshit, they say, that's bullshit, right? And I think as a man, you need that. It doesn't matter how successful you are. In fact, the more successful you are, the more you need people that ground you and keep you real. And I think it's a mistake for a man to make a lot of money, because I know so many men that go, you know what? I don't want to hang around men who are not as successful as I am. They got nothing to give me. Really? The truth is, you got nothing to give them. That's the truth. You got nothing to give them, because you become so arrogant that you forgot what it was like to be just a man, just a man. And we're all just men. We're born one day, we die one day. We have 24 hours a day. What we do with those 24 hours is up to us. And maybe we do good things in business for a long period of time. But did we do good things with our wife? Did we do good things with our kids? Do we do good things with our health? Do we do good things with our mental health? Those are questions that if you try to answer them by yourself, it's not going to go. And I see this good why some of these families have you as a coach, but there's so many guys who don't, Rene, and they should come. They should come to my men's group just so they can see, wow, I can be myself here. I don't have to pretend I got it all together and I know everything better than everybody else. I can just be myself. And that means that you can work through the hard issues, because we all have hard issues, man. You have hard issues. I have hard issues. The guy who killed himself, obviously he had hard issues.
Yeah. You know, I one of my big regrets is that I was not a coach yet at that time. I was not emotionally smart enough, because I'm sure that I could have saved his life.
Oh, fuck, man. That's horrible. But you can't go there. You know, you can't go there. I've had many friends of mine kill themselves, and I had no idea they were going to do it. And I've had the same conversation in my head. I could have saved them. And Rene, if he wanted to be saved, he would have given an indication to someone he wanted to be saved. When they're determined to go, they don't let anybody know until it's too late.
Yeah. So in your men's group, let me ask you this, Nicky, do you find that men often when they have an issue, whatever, they treat it like a technical problem?
Of course. They're men.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hell. I do that sometimes. I'll tell you for myself. There's a few things right now I'm dealing with, and I'll just tell you with full transparency, right? So I have two sons, and I've done a really good job raising them, Rene. They're 19 and 17. They're going to turn 20 in 1 month and 18 in 3 months. Okay. And I'm very proud of both my sons. They're men. They're not weak. They're strong. My older son is working full time. He's doing something he loves. He decided not to go to university. He decided to go work. He loves his work. He's making money. For a 19-year-old, he's doing really well. I'll tell you. And, he loves it, and he's growing and getting smarter, stronger, better, faster. It's fantastic. And my 17-year-old, he's in his final year of high school. He's probably going to go to university. You know, he has a little business he had in the summer. He worked in the summer too. He plays soccer, football, and hockey. So, he's got a girlfriend. Life is good. He's moving in a good direction. But they're both at the age where, hanging out with dad is not a high priority for either one of them, right? And I'm having a hard time with that. I miss them a lot. I see them not nearly enough. And I feel the ache in my soul. You know what I'm saying? I feel the ache in my, and it's right, and it's proper that they're doing this. This is the stage in a young man's life where he should be doing this. But I'm just telling you, I'm having a very difficult time with it. There are days where I'm by myself in the house, no one's here, and that's no fun, Rene. It's no fun at all. In fact, it's really terrible. And that's one big issue that I'm dealing with. And I had a really good year in my business. We did really, really well. But just recently, in the last month and a half, we've had some issues, in the business. Nothing horrible, but we were just going like this, like this, like this, and then there a couple of little bumps, and I'm not back to myself fully in the business, if you know what I mean. Like I'm like, I'm good, but I'm not fantastic Nicky Ballou, right? And I don't like it. It pisses me off, makes me angry at myself a little bit. And the truth of the matter is these two issues are like, if you listen to me, you go, oh, okay, Nicky, it's not that big a deal, man. Your sons, it's their job. Relax. They'll get over it. And they will. There'll be a time they will. And they go, oh, come on, Nicky, businesses have ups, they have downs. You've had the best year of your life. What the hell are you talking about, man? Why are you complaining? You had the best year of your life. You're complaining though? And that's all true. But yet, if I don't come and I don't share this with men, and I don't have someone talk to me, and I stay with this, man, that's not good, man. I'll go into a bad place. You know what I'm trying to say, Rene?
Yeah, yeah, There's one of the words I use a lot in coaching. It's interference.
Yeah.
It's the stories that we tell ourselves, and it seems that there's a lot of noise at this moment in your life.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, I don't know if that's the same as you, but I'm pretty, freedom for me is important. Independence
Everything
is important. And so I taught my kids to be independent, which is cool. It's great. It's the best gift. You can help them, educate them well, and they fly like birds, right? But the truth is, I have 5 kids. One is living in Melbourne, Australia, which is kind of really far away.
Wow.
Another one is living in Barcelona. I have 3 at home, but 2 of them, they go to Spain soon. And, this empty nest,
Oh,
it's a disaster.
it is.
So,
Fucking hate
so
it.
kind of, you have this saying like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm super happy. I'm so proud of them. They became independent. They make their own money. They're not depending on us. And only, I applaud them and fantastic. But yeah, that emptiness, I think that it's kind of, it feels to me that on top of that, other stuff that happens, for example, the bumps you mentioned in your business, the founding part is this emptiness. And now everything becomes more sensitive.
Yeah.
Everything feels more painful and a little bit more, So, but I can imagine that underlying that is that feeling of emptiness.
Yeah, something like that, man.
And it's great if you have people that you can lean on. And there's so much research about that, about longevity and social and so empty and lonely. And furthermore, setback in business, man, that's a toxic cocktail. Nobody wants to walk there.
No. I'm
sorry to hear that, man. I'm really sorry that you're feeling that pain now.
Amen. Me too. But the truth is, what's good is that I have men around me and I can talk to them about these things, and I do talk to them about these things. And these men, like, they don't treat me like I'm a child or I'm broken or I'm a girl or whatever. They treat me like a man, but they let me speak. They let me get it out, and they ask me questions to make me think so that I can process all this. Because at the end of the day, that's what, as a man, I need to do. And this man you spoke of, who took his own life, that's what, as a man, he needed to do. If he had a group of men that once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, he would get together with them and he just would talk about all this, and they would sit with him and let him process it, let him talk it out, and maybe ask him some questions, give him some advices, maybe he would have still be here, maybe he would still be here. And that's what's missing for these men. If I may.
What's missing is that this man that we spoke about, very different from what you just did, never learned or never allowed himself to be vulnerable.
I
never felt that he was in a safe space, talking about expectations, right? And so on, in a safe space to be vulnerable.
Well, the word vulnerable is a tricky one, because as a man, you don't want to be vulnerable. You want to be strong. You want to be You want to be someone who, because vulnerability implies someone can come in and attack you, and you don't want that. But you need to be in a place where you can safely, as you said, speak your truth and not have to pretend, because in the old days, the warriors, the night before a fight, a battle, they would get together around the fire and they would all stand, and there'd be other warriors that would come. And if you had an injury, if you had a cut on your arm, they'd press to go, okay, are you good? Can you fight? Right? And they would make sure that you weren't hiding anything from yourself or from them. And this is an analogy for what a good men's group is, like an old-fashioned, group of warriors standing around the fire, because it's an opportunity for you to tell your fellow warriors the truth. Should you be going into battle with them, or should you be resting and healing, right? And if they're smart, they're going to push you. They're going to go, okay, let's check that cut. Oh, he can still fight. All right, that's okay. He's good. He can still fight. Or no, he needs to go back, and he needs to heal. And men need that opportunity, and I think it's important for them to do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And your story about the warriors made me think about the modern warriors. And I worked for some time with the lead psychologist of the Navy SEALs on the East Coast. So you have, two Navy SEAL bases on the West Coast, East Coast. I mean, these guys, they are warriors, right? We can agree on that, whatever warrior means, but these people are trained to do, they're tough, and they're trained to do real hard stuff. Yep. So literally on a Monday morning or a Sunday night, they would leave their base, fly to some place in Africa, get dropped by a parachute, do some wild, highly dangerous operation, get in a rubber boat to a submarine that drops them off to whatever, close to an aircraft carrier. They get lifted off by a helicopter, get to some air base, and on Friday night, they're back at the home base in the United States, literally. And they had a wild week, right? So now they drive home. They can't talk about what they did, right? They were just absent for a week. Hey, darling, how was your week, right? So one guy, what he does before he comes home, he puts his truck two blocks before the house just to breathe. Goes home, spends the weekend at home, and then Monday morning, he's sitting on the bench with the therapist, crying about the relationship with his wife. The two contrast. The guy that does the most dangerous stuff you can only dream of, risking his life, being a warrior, and the Monday after that, also being another man, another real man, a father of a family, a husband, and crying about the relationship. I mean, these contrasts, they're fascinating. And I think also they're painful, and it's not that it's light or fun or whatever, but they make life so rich also. If you learn how to deal with that, and if you have a safe space also where you can dissipate some of that energy, I mean, it makes life so incredibly rich, such an, learning. Yeah.
No, it's a good conversation. It's a really good conversation. I've invited you to a business meeting, but I think, Rene, you ought to come to this men's meeting of ours on Zoom one of these Thursday nights, because I think you'd like it personally, but I think you might know some men that will really use it. You probably know some men that could really use it, because I
love to. I already, I think there's this meeting.
Yeah, but remember, that's the business meeting. I invited you to the business meeting.
Please invite me in. I'd love to.
I'll talk to you about it as soon as we finish the recording. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
We're having one actually coming up in a couple of days, and it's a special one, so I'll tell you about it. But men need good men around them.
Yes.
You need it. And you need successful men, but not just financially successful men. You need men who are like successful in marriages, as an example. That's a successful man. You need men who are successful fathers, like me. That's a successful man, or yourself. You need men who are successful at man skills, like changing a tire, putting up drywall, that kind of stuff. That's a successful man. And you also need to be real with the men and tell them the truth. Because if you come into the men's group and all you're going to do is everything's fantastic, when you know inside that's BS. It's not
And,
good.
if fantastic is the norm, then what does fantastic mean? Because if fantastic, it becomes the average. How
Yeah.
can you know it's fantastic if you don't know what the other side looks like? So I don't believe in that.
No.
You
And
know,
if you come to a meeting, you're gonna hear men. You're gonna hear not every man all the time because we don't have time for that. But you're gonna hear a man come to you with something real, and you're gonna listen to that man, and you're gonna learn from him. You're gonna learn from his struggle with telling himself and you and the other men the truth, and you're gonna learn about your own struggles with that and how you can come to a moment where, oh, this is what's going on in my life that I'm not properly dealing with, and let me deal with it, because that's how you live life as the best version of yourself as a man, in my opinion.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Rene, I really enjoyed
Mm.
having you here, man. You're a bright man. You have a phenomenal personal story, and what you do for families is very important. And honestly, like I told you when I interviewed you on the business podcast, I think there need to be like 1,000 men like you doing what you do around the world, and it still wouldn't be enough, because there's so many successful family businesses with issues that they haven't got a clue how to resolve. And I don't mean the business issues. I mean the family
No, the
issues.
business is
I mean
that's the easy
family
one.
issues. Yeah, yeah.
It's hard, but it's easy. But
But
the family issues is it's so
it's
hard.
difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Because like if you were fully busy all the time, you couldn't even work with 100 families, right? I think about this. And there are probably 10 million, 20 million such families around the world that are very successful and need this kind of help. I mean, you think about it?
By the way, you don't even have to be very successful. It can be literally be a mums and paps store in the corner, right? It's still family. They have a business, and they have their dynamics. So, I work a lot with very wealthy families, but I respect small business as well, because it's human.
Of course.
And they deal basically with the same human issues. So, obviously, family-owned businesses is generating the majority of the global GDP. Full stop. Most of the public-owned companies are still somehow family-controlled or family-influenced, and so on. So it's huge.
Sure. Big
And
time.
you spoke earlier about family offices, and family offices basically for families that are wealthy beyond, let's say, 100 million US dollars. It's kind of that's where it makes sense to start building a family office or to have a shared family office. And I just saw the last statistics in the world. There are more than 15,000 family offices. 15,000 family offices for families that have a wealth, that you can only dream of.
Yeah, wealth of
15,000. It's
15
at least
or
100.
1.5.
15,000
Wealth,
family
yeah,
offices.
wealth of 100 million plus. That's pretty crazy.
At least 100 million plus. At least 100 million plus. That's kind of the starter
Yeah. So,
size. And that's typically where you will have in one family office 3 or 4 families that pull together and they share resources.
so like I said to you, I believe you're one man, and these guys need just these 15,000 family offices. Every single one of them needs someone like you to help them. Someone that they have on retainer, honestly. And I would think that like the vision for how to help to create a business out of this that is successful for, a coach like you, it's probably someone who works with maybe 10 to 15 of these types of clients at a time. I don't think they could do more. And impossible to do more. And their job would be to really be on retainer and help these guys deal with all these dynamic issues, and be available almost on a moment's notice to do that. And that could be a wonderful business, because done properly, these guys should probably be getting from each of these clients somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 to $1 million per family office to be their coach, to be available to do that. And you have a 7 to 8 figure coaching business that way, and you're making a difference in the lives of some pretty important and special people. So I think that's something powerful and fantastic. Anyways, Rene, great to have you on the Sovereign Man podcast, man.
Just one thing, and as a disclaimer, I never went to a strip club in my life.
Yeah. I don't go to strip clubs, Rene. Not my thing. I'm happily in a beautiful, committed relationship with the most beautiful woman in the world. There's no need to go to a strip club. I have a strip club at home.
I applaud you. Thank you.
All right, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.